All right, so you were invited to play in your family or your office pool for the PGA Championship, and you really don't know who to pick, or you don't know exactly which golfers that you should be targeting in each tier. Well, thankfully for you guys, this is something that I basically do every single week for each tournament on the PGA Tour. This is also something that I did for you guys for the Masters tournament. And from that, got a lot of support from people saying that they enjoyed the coverage, and a lot of people saying that they did well in their pools, whether it be winning it, placing it, or beating their husband, which was kind of an awesome one to see. Enjoyed that. Now, the Masters tournament was much more dialed in, much more easy to know exactly which player to be on, which for me, for the PGA Championship, much more fun because it's a little bit more wide open. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. So obviously for the pool system, there's going to be about 6 tiers. Now, each pool does operate a little bit differently. Yours might be slightly different than this. It's going to operate the same though. So what we're going to do is we're going to touch on the best picks for each tier and really why they're going to be the best picks. Now, again, this is not going to be as straightforward as the Masters. There are going to be some spots where you could get unique depending on the size of your office pool, really, and you could maybe know who people are going to be on for your office and whatnot, potentially, or your family pool, whatever it is. And so I downloaded this list this time, and then I put it into my own Excel sheet for you guys to be able to use it to better view it. Now, I'm still going to be using my own data from the 9to5sports.com fantasy golf cheat sheet, and this is something I use every single week to decide like which golfers are going to be the top plays for that week's tournament. And so what I did is I kind of exported some of this data and put it into that Excel sheet for you. And really what we're doing is we're looking at all the key metrics that make up a good golf play for that week. And what my data does is really measure both safety and upside for a play. So ability to make the cut, but also ability to have a top finish. And so that's what my data is doing. And so we're going to be using that as well as the Vegas odds and the Vegas made cut percent to give you guys the top picks for each tier. So let's go ahead and get into tier 1. So at the Masters tournament, I pretty much told you guys, don't get cute. Play Scotty Scheffler. He ended up winning. That was very simple. And just a quick recap from the Masters, 6 for 6. Everyone made it across the cut line. Tier 2, Cameron Smith was the best producer. And then it was a little bit more safety after that. But, again, pretty good results there. For the PGA Championship, a little bit different. We have to deal with Scotty Scheffler. And a lot of people might not know this, but Scotty Scheffler did just have his first child. And I'm not exactly sure of the timeline. I believe it was on the 8th. So anyways, you kind of worry a little bit about his preparation heading into this tournament and really maybe where he's going to be at mentally. Now, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe he's a little bit more excited to go out and play well. Maybe he's not. We don't know how to assess that. So that's just going to put it as a push. Everything's going to be good to go for him. And so if that is indeed the case, he is going to be the player that is the top pick, as we can see, number 1 in the 9to5 model, best outright odds, and best chance to make the cut. Obviously, he's the player that you should be choosing. But then you also have Rory to potentially choose from, and then Xander. I would say Brooks is going to be someone that's going to be tough to get to. Now, I do want to mention that these live golfers, like Brooks Koepka, like Jon Rahm, like Bryson, and like Neiman, they don't have as good a data, I guess, per se, going into this because they are live golfers. My model is basically focused on PGA Tour results. That being said, Vegas does slightly factor in the live results as well, and they don't like those live golfers as much as the PGA Tour golfers. So let's take a closer look at Scotty, Rory, and Xander. And so I will say it's probably closer to just being between Scotty or Rory, but I do see a path in which Xander does, win. It would have to be Scotty and Rory they kind of let Xander win. I don't see Xander going out and winning the tournament, which is basically exactly what happened last week where Rory went out and won the Wells Fargo Championship. And we're going to see Rory has now won 2 straight tournaments in a row, as has Scotty Scheffler. Rory did win at the Wells Fargo Championship, which if you were looking at some sort of comparable course to what the players are playing at this week, you could use the Wells Fargo course. Now, Rory had been a little bit more hit or miss than Xander, and especially Scotty. And so he's maybe the more risky of the two, but at the same time, he is hot. He was the previous winner at this tournament in 2014. Now, why is that important? Because in 2014, this tournament was held at this same course. So there are going to be some good vibes for him at this tournament as well. But I do still think we are just going with Scotty as well. The only one bad data point that we have going for Scotty this week is the fact that he missed the cut at the PGA Championship 2 years ago, which it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a completely different course. He's a much better player right now. That's 2 years ago. Don't really care about that. Every single other data point is in the green. So again, I think we're keeping it simple. I think we're going Scotty. Now, if you are in a huge group, one way you could gain some leverage on your group, on your office pool, would be potentially playing Xander. He is one of the safest plays this week, and he has shown a lot of consistency. You would basically be getting a top 10 finish. So it's not likely that he's going to finish better than Rory or Scotty, but maybe he does. And you'd be gaining some huge leverage on your field or on your office, or I don't think a family pool, you're not using Xander here because that's too small. But an office pool where it's a big office pool, you could potentially go Xander. But that's enough for tier 1. Let's go ahead and get into tier 2. So tier 2 is where it does start to get a little bit interesting in terms of who you can be on. And I'll touch on the reasons as to why in more of a second, more of a detailed approach here in a second. But just looking at it right now, you can see in terms of like the model and outright odds, Cameron Smith really does pop. You also have Wyndham Clark, the US Open champ, whose game does set up really well for this tournament. Cameron Young and Tommy Fleetwood are two players that rank out very well. Hideki, he has some back concerns, withdrew from last week's event due to an injury. And so I don't know if we're playing him. And really, these bottom 3, I don't think we would be playing, or bottom 4, I don't think we'd be playing. Patrick Cantlay and Victor Hovland have not been playing well enough recently to warrant them to be someone that we should be playing. And so to me, it really is deciding between these 4 golfers: Cameron Smith, Wyndham Clark, Tommy Fleetwood, Cameron Young. And they all have some slight flaws, minus Cameron Smith. And so I do think he would be the pick. So right off the bat, from the Masters tournament, we're going with the 2 same plays, Brooks Koepka and Cameron Smith. Now, I'm not saying that this week you have to play Cameron Smith, though. There is a slight difference. So let's touch on the other picks as well. So yes, looking at it, guys, Cameron Smith is going to be the player that does rank out the best. He finished 6th at the Masters earlier on this year, which is right here. His form from when he left the PGA Tour was very good, but he also has been playing well on the LIV Tour as well. So if you guys are someone that strongly values those results, you can see he has been playing well over there as well. So like to see that there from him. And just looking at it from like DraftKings pricing, which is what the salary is, which is a DFS-based game, which is what I was just showing you guys right here, they think he's going to do better. So DraftKings thinks he's going to do better. He has about the same odds to win as Wyndham Clark and Tommy Fleetwood. Doesn't have as good of a made cut percentage, which I'm assuming that has to do with LIV Golf a little bit, but on paper, he's kind of just the best. Look at the 4 key metrics that we're pulling in. Specialist data, which is taking in all the unique characteristics for that week's tournament. You guys probably don't care about that. I get that, but it's like stuff like what's the weather like, who's the course designer, is the fairway tight, rough? Again, you guys don't care about that. But he ranks out well there. Good stab fit, good in recent form. So he is the pick. But you also have Wyndham Clark, who his game sets up extremely well for this type of track, as does Cameron Young. When those 2 golfers are at their peak, which I'm not sure we're going to get this week, they will probably produce a better result than Cameron Smith. So there is that kind of slight difference that you could make there. And then Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood has been playing extremely well recently, has produced extremely well at the past majors as well. Had a 3rd place finish at the Masters, 5th place finish at the 2022 PGA Championship, 18th place finish at the 2023 PGA Championship, and 5th place finish at last year's US Open, which is basically the same as Cameron Smith. So might as well just go with the better playing Cameron Smith. I think that makes sense. But if you're playing one of those other 3 players other than Cameron Smith, I wouldn't talk you out of it. All right, so now we jump on into tier 3, and tier 3 is probably the biggest headache spot for me. At the same time, it does seem more straightforward than probably most of you guys would think. So I bet a lot of you guys naturally, without seeing any of the rankings, like if we were just going to go back to this list, a lot of people would just go with Jordan Spieth. He's the biggest name, and a lot of people just click on him. Maybe a little bit of DJ, maybe a little bit of Matt Fitzpatrick being a US Open winner. Those are 3 of the worst picks you can make out of this tier, most likely. I never like to talk in absolutes when it comes to this stuff, but on paper, Tyrrell Hatton's actually going to be the best pick that you can roll with. Odds-wise, model-wise, made cut-wise, he is the best pick that you could be rolling with out of this tier, and it's kind of as simple as that. Like, you should just be playing him, and I'll get into why here, but if you're not playing him, there is one other option you can roll with, and I can bet a majority of you guys would not be playing him, so thus a majority of people in your office pools would not be playing him. So maybe you're worried Tyrrell Hatton's going to be extremely popular. He shouldn't be. Again, I don't think he will be. Byung-Hun An would be the next best pick. Now, he is very much risk-reward, and let's touch on why. So with this being a longer track, Hun An is someone that should benefit. He's top 10 on the tour in driving distance, does gain strokes off the tee as well, which basically longer tracks, you want to be targeting golfers that are longer off the tee, better off the tee, which is what we saw at last week's tournament where he finished 3rd. And if you look at over his past 7 starts, he has an 8th place finish, a 4th place finish, and 3rd place finish. This is a player where you could capture some major upside with, potentially more upside than someone like Tyrrell Hatton, who is kind of the safe play in this range. Now, Tyrrell Hatton left for the LIV Tour earlier on prior to the PGA Tour season really getting going. But he is someone that always produces in majors, had a 9th place finish at the Masters earlier on this season. So that's a good sign for him for his form carrying over to live. And he is someone whose game does set up really well for a tournament like the PGA Championship. You can see his live golf results pretty solid for the most part, so we'll take that. And so far, the top 3 picks for each tier: Scotty, Cameron Smith, Terrell Hatton. Now, just real quickly, if you guys can give a like and subscribe to the channel, I do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and get back into the pick. All right, so now tier 4 is definitely the one that's the most open. There shouldn't be anyone that's a very popular pick here because they're all a little bit risk reward. There are a bunch of safe plays, and you can kind of just tell that by what the data is telling us. Now, the players that you are probably not ending up on that you could easily cross off: Taylor Gooch and Brian Harman. Brian Harman is someone, though, that can pop at majors, so maybe he's not someone that you're crossing off. At the same time, probably not playing him. The issue that I have with this range is that, like, Russell Henley's more of a hit or miss type play, a guy that could easily top 10 or miss the cut. Shane Lowry's someone that is typically really reliable, but his form is tailing off. Seb Straka is basically the exact opposite, where his form has gotten better recently, and he's in some of the best form right now. And then Siwoo Kim, Adam Scott, they're okay plays. But really, the players I want to highlight for you guys, I'll do it. Shane Lowry, Corey Connors, Seb Straka. It's going to be a big list. Russell Henley, Siwoo Kim, Adam Scott, and Akshay as well. All right, so when I pull these golfers up on the cheat sheet, you're going to see that basically all of them are somewhat the same play on paper. Okay, Shane Lowry has produced really well at events like this. He's going to be a good stat fit. Is coming off of a victory at a team event with Rory. But besides that, the results that we have gotten from Shane Lowry really haven't been that great over his past 4 starts. Now, if we go back further, we're going to see a 3rd and 4th place finish. Kind of do expect him to make the cut. He would probably be my default pick just because I have some trust in Shane Lowry. At the same time, I wouldn't blame you for picking someone like Siwoo Kim, who has made 14 straight cuts on the tour. The issue that I have with him, Corey Connors, Russell Henley, and even Adam Scott for that matter, is events like these, the US Open, the PGA Championship, these events are really not set up for players like that. And so those golfers are more hit or miss, and I don't exactly love trusting them. And so a one player that could be sneaky good is Seb Straka, who long-term wise, maybe a little bit hit or miss, played well at the PGA Championship last year with a 7th place finish, okay? And over his last 4 starts has finished 8th, 11th, 5th, and 16th. So that's very appealing. But the one player that's honestly the most fun out of this group is Akshay. And kind of the reason as to why is he was the junior PGA Championship at this tournament in 2018. Now that's 6 years ago. That's well removed. And it's not exactly the same as Matt Fitzpatrick when he won the US Open at the Country Club, where he won as a, I think, junior amateur champion. Yeah, it's not exactly that because Fitzpatrick was an easier pick that week. Like, you were already going to be on him. But like, if you look for reasons to play Akshay, you can find them. So again, this tier is very, very wide open. This is one where I'm kind of just tossing my hands up and kind of letting you guys get unique with it. Honestly, if you guys have a feeling as to which one you want to be on the most here, let me know in the comment section below. I didn't really want to sell you guys on any pick. I'm actually very curious as to who you want to be on for that tier. If I had to choose, safety-wise, it's Shane Lowry, which I say with a little bit of hesitation. And that's just simply because he does produce in majors, whereas every single other one of these golfers is more hit or miss. A little bit concerning there. Now, thankfully, after that, tier 5 is pretty darn straightforward in terms of who we want to be on. Now, again, a lot of people are probably going to go with more name value picks here. Ricky Fowler, Patrick Reed, Tiger Woods, maybe. Those are not good picks. You should not be using those picks here, okay? And that's where you can gain an edge here. In simple, there's really 3 that we should be on: Alex Noren, Patrick Reed, or Stefan Jaeger. And let's touch on those 3. So Reed should be kind of safe play here. I do expect him to make the cut. He is someone that typically does well in majors. He just is someone you can typically rely on to make the cut at majors. 56th at the US Open last year, 18th place finish at the PGA Championship last year. Again, he typically makes the cut at majors. He is the safe play in this range. That's fine. If you want to chase some safety, get a 6 for 6 across the cut line, that's good. He should be that play. Other than that, you have someone like Alex Noren, who he was a little bit of a Masters snub. I would have loved to give him a pick for you guys as like a tier 6 pick at the Masters because he would have been stellar. And I think that's more echoed with the fact that he's a tier 5 option this week because he has been playing some great golf. 16 straight make cuts on the PGA Tour. He's in the 5th best form heading into this major. Now, some of that is due to him playing in some alternative field events because he didn't qualify for the PGA Tour. Has these signature events, and the signature events have like the top 70 players on the PGA Tour playing it. It's a no-cut event, and then they'll typically run out an alternative field event in which other golfers on the PGA Tour that are not up to that caliber play in those events. He has played in a couple of those, which slightly skews the data. At the same time, playing good golf is playing good golf, and that is great. And so it is super difficult not to choose Alex Noren given how well he's been playing. And stat fit wise, he's a good stat fit. Now, he's not the longest off the tee, which again could be a concern this week. And so if you want to just chase players that are long off the tee, you could roll with Jaeger. Jaeger finished 50th at the PGA Championship last year. Jaeger is also the last golfer on the PGA Tour, or I guess in the world, that beat Scottie Scheffler with his victory 6 events ago. So maybe there is a little bit something there as well. To me, I'm probably rolling with Reed here. At the same time, Noren does rank out slightly better. I might just chase that form. And so, let's go with Noren here. Noren's the pick. If you guys want to chase a little bit more safety here, you could go Reed. All right, so getting into tier 6 now. There are a ton of golfers listed here. And part of the reason as to why is because there are PGA pros in this, which is different than like PGA Tour pros. We don't have to worry about it. So like really this list is really consolidated to not that many golfers that you should be on. It's Keith Mitchell. It's Chris Kirk. Maybe a little bit of Kurt Kitayama. Some people might be tempted to play Phil. Phil finished second at this event in 2014. He also was a recent PGA champion winner. He does randomly pop. I'm not playing him. That feels way too dumb, too risky, but I would have said that at the PGA Championship when he won just a few years ago, so it is what it is. Lucas Glover is going to be a good sneaky option. Lucas Glover, if you look at over his past 20 starts, or every player's past 20 starts, he's like 5th in the field in wins over their past 20 starts, which they went back-to-back in the playoffs last year for the PGA Tour, but he's someone you could look at. Maybe you could potentially go back to the Masters play, Taylor Moore. I don't think we need to do that. And then there's one sneaky kind of good play in Taylor Pendrith as well. So I think we can knock this list down to about 5 players that we should be choosing from, and I'll talk about the reasons as to why you'd want to choose one of them. So then this is the list of golfers that we'd be choosing from, these 5 right here, okay? And so Chris Kirk is the one that slightly ranks out better. Chris Kirk is surprisingly good off the tee this year. His stroke gain off the tee this year, better than Jordan, better than Aubert, Hovland, Clark, Morikawa, Cameron Young, and Tony Finau. Like, that was shocking to me. That was a shocking stat that I found this week. And so it does make sense why he's popping up as a good play this week. Good form, 6 straight make cuts now. Played decently well in the majors in the past. Made the cut in the past 2 PGA championships like that. But the easy play, I would say, to me is going to be Keith Mitchell, because Keith Mitchell is known for being long off the tee. Good total driver, good ball striker. Typically not someone that makes many mistakes. Maybe he's a little bit riskier just in the fact that missed the cut 4 starts ago. At the same time, I don't really care about that. We should be getting around a top 30 finish from Keith Mitchell. And he hasn't missed the cut at his past 3 majors in terms of US Open, PGA Championship, and US Open, or PGA Championship in 2022. Stat rank wise, he ranks out really well. His game really fits this type of course. And so he's kind of the play I think you should be going with, because there should both be safety in him making the cut, but also upside for him to potentially give you a top 10 finish. Kurt Kitayama is someone that seems like a solid play across the board. 35th place finish at the Masters is what's showing up there, and a 4th place finish at the PGA Championship last year. Pretty good stat fit across the board. 6 straight make cuts. All of them been pretty solid finishes. So you could roll with him. Lucas Glover is certainly the most interesting one, I would say. Again, over his past 20 starts, he has 2 victories. 5 straight make cuts now on the PGA Tour. In his past 2 majors that we have seen him, 23rd and 20th place finish. Not the best stat fit, but if we look at all the key metrics, top 30 or better in all those key metrics. So nothing really alarming or bad with his game. Really popping up. The issue with him is really like choosing him, who ranks 64th outright wise, compared to like Keith Mitchell, who ranks 44th. Like that doesn't really make sense. Actually, Lucas Glover has a slightly better make cut percent, but again, if we're trying to just chase that upside, it does make sense to just roll with Mitchell there. But I could be talking to Glover. Now, this last play here is going to be Taylor Pendrith. Taylor Pendrith is certainly interesting in the sense that he is super long off the tee, gains a bunch of strokes off the tee. And if we look at his past 4 starts now, 10th, 1st, 11th, and 11th. That's difficult to ignore. That is really difficult to ignore as well. I'm not saying he's someone you guys to choose from, but if he pops, this is a pick that I'd be potentially regretting not bringing it up to you guys. So he's in there as well. So real quickly, let's recap the picks that I'm going to be choosing here for you guys. And so here it is. For tier 1, pretty simple. You're going Scotty Scheffler. Could default to maybe Rory or Xander if you're worried that too many people are going to be on Scotty. Tier 2 is pretty simple. Cameron Smith. Now you could maybe get cute and go elsewhere. Fleetwood, Clark, Young, a little bit riskier. Maybe a little bit more upside, but Smith should be the safe play. Same thing with Hatton. Like you could roll with Hunt An, who would be the next best option there, but a little bit too risky. Just keep it simple. Go with Terrell Hatton. After that is where it does get more difficult. Shane Lowry, I'm okay with. You could talk me into basically 90% of the plays that are available here. Again, let me know in the comment section which one you guys like the most based off of the information I gave you. Tier 5, again, a little bit more difficult. To me, it's between Noren or Reed. For the most part, could go Jaeger. Noren, I just love the form. I'm going to chase that. Hopefully he pops for the majors. And I did just notice this. The one issue with Keith Mitchell is that he's going to be the highest player on the chart here for tier 6. And so people might default to him a little bit more. He is the correct choice though. So like you should be choosing him. Again, you could go Kirk, could go Glover, but he is the correct choice. And this could be a way for you guys to look at it as well by just going like this. I don't exactly love the fact that out of the tiers, 4 out of the top plays in the tiers I'm kind of choosing. But again, given some of the name value that's here, like people are going to pick Jordan, DJ here. So I don't think you really have to worry about that. But that's going to be all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this coverage. I plan on coming out for it for the next major as well, assuming that this video does well. Appreciate you guys being here. If you are someone that does do fantasy golf, maybe once a month or once a week or so, and you want some access to these tools, head on over to 9to5sports.com. They're available for $10 a month. Oh, P.S. I might post a screenshot of this somewhere, probably on Twitter, of that player pool, so be on the lookout for that. Maybe I'll post a write-up on the 9to5sports website as well, but I'll probably just post a screenshot of that list on the 9to5 Twitter account. All right, that's all. Thanks for watching, and as always, let's keep cashing.